So I'll do a quick introduction while that's getting loaded up. I'm Hannah Everetts, Director of Sales for Traction and located in Northwest Ohio. So actually Brian and I are essentially neighbors up here and our family farms up here in Northwest Ohio and a little bit into Indiana. So we are a family operation that has been using Traction. So I do use that perspective quite a bit as I'm working with customers and also keeping my own Traction account up to date as much as possible. Although please don't go look at it right now because we have been in harvest as well and it's been very busy. So hopefully we'll get that all up to date quickly and we'll kind of show what that looks like. But today we're going to go through those steps that Brian listed in the agenda. So as we go through, very clearly for anyone involved, please, please, please ask questions. It makes it a lot easier kind of to direct us on where we're going to go in the platform and to ensure that we're covering the points that need to be covered. We will not get an in-depth look at every single aspect of the program today. Those of you that have it, that are current customers, you know that there's a lot in here that we will not even touch, but we are going to focus on the integration and just kind of kick it off with an overview of what Traction is for those of you that haven't ever looked at the system before. So in terms of Traction as a whole, really what we are is the financial hub of your operation. So whatever you're using for bookkeeping in terms of accounting, that's what Traction would do for your operation. The biggest difference in us versus other accounting type or bookkeeping type systems is that we're not only measuring the accounting data and the financial aspect of your operation, we're also measuring the operational aspects and tying those together into reports that are useful for your operation at a click of a button. So when you are sitting at the end of a season like right now, and you want to know, hey, was I profitable on these fields or this farm or in my operation as a whole, Traction has the ability to give you that data with real numbers in real time so that you can make decisions for the next year or set a budget for the next year. All of those things are at your fingertips with Traction. So we really want to emphasize that this is the financial hub of your operation and it's giving you the data in real time to make those decisions. So how do we do that? First, when you come into Traction, one of the things that you'll do that's essential to this is setting up entities. Unlike other platforms, you can have unlimited entities within Traction. So if you have, let's say, a seed business or you have a multi-generational operation where you've got other family members coming in, you can put all of those entities within the system. And the nice part is you do not have to log in and out to bounce back and forth between those entities. So you can log things back and forth in the account registers. You can also bill and invoice back and forth between entities in the system as well. So keeping all the finances separate with the ability to pull them together as needed into balance sheets or income statements if need be. So here's an example. Here's some of the ones that we're going to be looking at today. Obviously, this is a demo account for me. So you're going to see some demo data in here. And I'm really going to focus on this Everett's farm demo as we look at some of the numbers. Once I've gotten through that and added entities, you do have the option to connect in bank and credit card accounts. Again, this is financially driven. So we want to make sure that you're getting that financial information in as quickly as possible and as easily as possible. So within those entities, if you've got a couple checking accounts connected to the farm, maybe you've also got a credit card that goes out that some of your operators have, all of those things can be tied into the correct entities and that information can flow directly through Plaid into your account registers. So all of that can be hooked up here. You just use your online login for those accounts, connect them, give them the date, and tell them which entity you want it to flow into. So that should make that much quicker, or you always have the option to do a CSV import. So for example, I do that for John Deere Financial because that's not one that I can pull in automatically. I just download the CSV from that website. I upload it into Traction. It's going to bring in all those transactions for me. Or if you'd rather do things by hand, that's also an option. So 3 ways to get your information into the financial dashboard within Traction. We also have things set up quickly. So if you're a new customer or you're looking to make some changes on one of your entities or multiple, you can quickly add revenue and expense accounts that are applicable to most operations. So obviously we've got the sales revenue aspect here and then expense categories. Mine are grayed out because they already exist within these entities, but if I was just starting out, all of these would be available. I could also select anything new that I want to add, and it would quickly add that to my chart of accounts. We understand that chart of accounts can be a little bit daunting when you first jump into a system. We try to make it as simple as possible, with also the ability to create whatever custom accounts you want, and then also grouping those accounts with how you would want to see them on that P&L. And that would get you essentially into the system. So we can take a look at kind of what that looks like from a big scale. So again, we've got our chart of accounts. We can always look and toggle between these multiple entities here. You're going to see that information comes through and starts populating. We've got all of the accounts. If I scroll way down here, we'll start to see those expense accounts populating in. And so we can build all of that by hand, or we can go ahead and choose the pieces that we want, again, with the ability to group accounts. So again, we're just trying to make that financial piece of your operation as applicable to your specific instance as possible. So whatever you need it to do, that's what Traction's here for. One of the pieces, though, that is a good call out for us is that anytime we're adding a new account, I know one of the things that groups struggle with the most in terms of when we get to the end of the season and we're going into tax time is the ability to tie things into Schedule F. And so when we are choosing and creating a new expense account or any other account in the system, I do get to choose this account type. So this would tie into Schedule F automatically for me. So if it's something that deals with freight and trucking expense, I already have this. Maybe I have some custom trucking expense that I'm going to have in my account. This will tie into Schedule F. This is the name of the account, and I've just created a custom account that's going to go into my chart of accounts. So pretty simple there. I will do a quick pause here and see, I don't see any chats popping up. Does anyone have any questions thus far?
Yeah, feel free to unmute yourself. You can navigate to the bottom of the screen. I guess I didn't mention this earlier, but if you just take your cursor to the bottom, there should be a toolbar that pops up, and there you can unmute yourself. You can use the chat button. Lots of different things there for you to communicate with us. But yeah, to your point, yeah, I'm not seeing anything in the chat yet.
Okay. I'm going to keep going and kind of zoom out to what it looks like when we're putting things in the system. Okay. So in this account register, again, I can toggle between these accounts. If this John Deere Financial was hooked into a different account for me, or a different entity, I should say, then by simply toggling into it, now I'm working within that entity. So really easy access there to toggle between. But if we stay in here, you can see that I've got, these transactions in. For instance, this one is going to be to ABC Seed Co. I've put in the seed and a seed treatment. One of the things that makes Traction unique, though, and we're going to talk about this full circle, especially with the billing integration, is that in this particular instance, not only am I logging this as a seed expense within Traction, but I have the ability to actually select the brand. I can put in which crop year because we're tracking financials to crop years as well as my fiscal year. And then it's going to actually put those 400 bags into my inventory that we're going to take a look at as well when we talk about field records. So not only am I logging this as a financial transaction of something that happened in my account, I'm also at the same exact time going ahead and putting this into my inventory. So saving the hassle of having to have an additional spreadsheet or being able to track it somewhere else. I think we've probably all gone through the situation where we're not quite sure what's sitting out in the shed or the shop at any point in time. And so having it within Traction makes it a lot easier because we are cataloging all of this at the same time. And again, it's just looking like a bank transaction, but it's actually putting that into my inventory. Same with this seed treatment. If I purchase this for 2026, now I've got 450 gallons in inventory from crop year or for crop year 2026 that I have available to then use on my field records. One of the other things that we can do in these transactions too, let's just say that I needed to add something to this particular entry, and we'll say that maybe we had an additional, we'll just say a crop insurance expense that we wanted to put within this transaction. We'll just say it was 250 bucks for some reason. What I also have the ability to do within Traction is over here, we have this cost allocation. Okay. We'll see that it's grayed out for the different products that we purchased to put into inputs because that's going to be applied to acres and allocated that cost across those acres once I bring in the field records that we'll talk about. But for this particular crop insurance expense, because it's not applicable directly to field records, I have the ability to go in and select those. So our fields are called zones, and I have these in the system, and I could say, okay, this particular crop insurance expense went to these 4 fields. And I can actually allocate this expense to go across these acres. So when I'm pulling my profitability statement, this will show up there as well. And I can do the exact same thing for a repair expense on any piece of equipment. Actually, let's take that irrigation out and let's do just a simple repair. If I pick the right category, there we go. And then I can do that and allocate it specifically to equipment within my fleet. And we'll talk through in the machine integrations where this data comes from and how I can add equipment in. I think we'll have time to get there. But for instance, if this went into here and I want to put 250 bucks on it, I can do that. And again, I'm assigning that crop year of when that I want that expense to hit that profitability statement, giving me accurate data for my equipment as well. And we could go into a ton more detail on this, but that essentially is the overarching look of what it looks like within transactions and this ability to do cost allocation, which is unique to the Traction system, not something that we're going to see tracked in other similar bookkeeping systems that exist right now. So those pieces are in here, and so I don't get out of balance here. I'm going to delete those 2 extras I threw in and jump out of this transaction. From here, we've got different pieces over here, but we can also take a look at some other pieces that exist within Traction just to kind of get that 30,000 foot view. And then we're going to jump into what it actually looks like when we bring in that billing integration. So real quick, as we look to integrations that we can go ahead and connect with, this is really, again, unique to the system in terms of we can pull a lot of data in automatically into Traction. So when we look here, we can hook up for our payroll. We've got Paylocity, John Deere Operations, which is connected to this account with this green check mark, and then Climate Field View will bring in our field data. So directly from equipment, we're bringing in that field data that's relative to our operating field records, and also it's bringing in farms and fields and equipment for us. Tax 1099 will do our 1099 creation. And then obviously we've got the Keystone Cooperative. You all would get to click on this Keystone. I've got it hooked up to a demo account. So we're going to see that demo data coming in. But these would be the places where we would actually go in and connect. And so once you would hit connect, you would just put in your customer number for Keystone, and that would allow you to, and an invoice number or a bill number, and then it will start to pull those pieces in. So before we jump too far into the Keystone piece, here's where, based on that machine integration, we're going to be pulling in that farm and field data. So we can see here, if we click on this, it's bringing in those field boundaries to tie us in for profitability. It's also going to bring in our equipment list. So that way we can be tracking actual equipment costs as well. So this data is coming into the system, and it's also where those repairs would go. We've got that input data. So as I purchase chemical, fertilizer, and seed, depending on the crop year, and actually we can go to 2026. And right here, it's going to show me those balances of what I've already purchased to use for next year. So everything within one space in the system. And it looks like we might have a question in the chat.
We do. Yep. So it looks like the question is, does Traction inventory deplete once equipment as applied data is imported, showing use of product?
Great question. Yes, it does. So if we look right here, so let's go back to 2025 on this particular insecticide. So here's where I would see anytime that I purchased these gallons going into the system. And then right here would be a field record that I would have brought in that actually used this gallon as applied. And so I'm going to click over here and go into that field record so we can look at it a little bit closer. So here's when I actually brought in this field record back in September. was 112 acres. Here's that chemical that came across. It came in at the area, the rate, total quantity applied. And then because I have a landowner agreement on this, which is probably something we won't fully get into today, if at all, it pulled out those gallons as well. So great question. Yes. So this amount comes out of that inventory then. So giving me accurate tracking. And then the cost of this application is also getting applied to this field boundary. So when I go and pull that profitability statement, it's all going to be there. Did that answer that question?
Yes, it did.
Okay.
Thanks, Michael, for the question.
Is there another one in there or keep
No,
rolling?
I just keep rolling. Yep.
Okay, perfect. I like questions. It gives me a chance to take a breath because I talk really fast. So in addition to chemical input inventory, also when we're bringing in records, so if we just kind of look right now, again, this is that machine integration with John Deere operations in this particular account, but you could connect it to what you need. So you can see here within the past week, we've had some corn operating harvest records that have come in. So as of right now, these are not fully in the system. They're sitting in this import queue from John Deere Ops. I just need to go in and start verifying some data to get it ready so that this import button, as you can see on the third one down, will turn green. So first things first, I'm just matching it. This is the home farm. It's going to be corn this year. Those are pieces that I can pull in. And then within this button, here's where I can just verify some of that yield data. So if this is my source of truth off this machine, again, this was a really small field. We have a lot of those. It would bring in that average yield. It's going to give me the total dry bushels. And then if I want to assign it a unit price right now, I can, but I don't have to at this time. Susie, is that you with a question or hand raised?
No.
Okay. So I can give it that unit price. Otherwise, I can just say, yep, save. I've verified that yield data. I also can verify that this code coming off of my piece of equipment equals my combine. So, and I would save this equipment mapping. So every time this code comes in, I don't have to match it. The system learns this is the combine. It's going to match it every time to be tracking that data from the equipment side as well. So I can save that. Optionally, I can tell it who actually combined this. So if it was my husband, I can hit save there. I've got all the data greened out. I've got a green import button. And so I can go ahead and bring in this data into the system and there it goes. So pretty simple there. This is where that field data would come in. Again, I'm just verifying some data. Average yield was better on this field. It's got my total dry. I can hit save, check equipment's matched. Good. Maybe I don't need personnel on this. I can go ahead and just import these in. So I'm getting that data in. The same would apply for any application record. You can see some of these that I left in here still exist. This would bring in products as well. So again, when we're pulling those out of inventory, I'm doing some matching. So this is what it looks like on the equipment. Here's the input I'm matching it to in traction. I can always add, maybe we had a carrier on this and we've got some water we need to add as well. We can do that. And we can pull it from there and save this input mapping so that way it'll come through every single time. Delete that, hit save, and I can bring these in as well because they were ready and they were very much back from the summer. So get those into the system. Those then go into field records for us. And so again, I'm searching by crop year here. I can search by which crop was in that field. And I've got a couple more filters I can put on this. So just looking at harvest or application. But I always have the ability to adjust these as needed. So maybe something happened in the cab and we need to adjust this. I can go in and do that simply within the field record and hitting edit. I can make any necessary changes that I need to here. So again, we're combining that financial aspect, also looking at the operations data, and we're going to look next really at how that pulls together. Any other questions that have come up or anyone want to
Yep.
unmute and ask anything at this point?
We had a question in the chat here. So another question for you regards to the John Deere Operations Center.
Mhm.
I have seen issues with current software not updating to
Mm,
Operations Center boundaries that were changed. How does boundaries and traction cross integrate with Ops Center?
mm, good question. So as we bring it in, that's where we'll want to ensure really best practice is to make sure that Ops Center is aligned as closely as possible when you first bring that data in. As those boundaries change, though, one of the things that we'll have to do within the system, if I just open up our farm here and I look at that same North Bell Fountain field, one thing you'll notice here is what came in from John Deere Ops is that this field is 11.7 acres. Well, I actually know that we took out some trees back here and we've expanded this field, and the way that it's going to report for FSA acres is going to be 12.4. And so I can easily go in and edit this field. I can change the boundary if I need to, but more importantly, I want to focus on this reporting area, and I can pull in that acreage right there to ensure that it matches. Now, on the field records, oops, if I save that, in the import queue, it's going to be logging how many acres were actually run over within that application or whatever type of record I'm looking at. And so potentially if I didn't get this entire field at one time, so for instance, this top one here, it's actually a 112 acre field. Looks like we only harvested 106. That's what's going to get split out with that field. So we can take in all of that data. Am I missing anything on that, Brian, that you would throw in terms of field boundaries?
No, I think you nailed it there.
Okay. Does that answer the question? I'm not sure who asked. I can only see that something popped up.
Yeah, it was Michael again.
Okay. Michael, does that help?
I'm sorry, I was trying to find the mute button. No, that
That's
sounds
okay.
like it's a similar issue that I'm currently seeing with software that I use today. But yours can actually adjust the field boundary within Traction. What I have today, I cannot. I actually have to call in support, and then they have to reallocate the field boundary back. That's why it's pretty clunky with that. This is a step better for sure.
Okay. And then does it also allow, do you have to do the same thing to add in a new boundary?
Yes, yes. If anything
Okay.
changes with an op center on the boundary, it does not then associate within the software I'm currently using. So you
Mm,
have to create a help ticket basically and have them reestablish that connection.
okay. Interesting. Yeah, that sounds a little painful. Um, yeah, within the system, it really is pretty easy. So again, we're going with that like grower farm field, the same thing that Ops Center does in most different types of machine data, how it comes in. But we can also, under this particular farm, I can either actually add a new farm or I can add new fields as well. So say that we just pick something up real quick. I can go in and this is going to be a really rough boundary potentially, but I could go in and pull that pretty quickly. It's going to yell at me here. Let's say we brought one over here and we took that on. So I could bring that in, just give it a new name, new field one, and it would be pulling that. Now, again, I drew 52.2 acres. If this field is actually 51.9, I can go in and fix that here. This is what it's going to take my profitability against, not what I drew on my very, very rough map. So those are aspects that we can do here too. Hopefully user-friendly as possible. But again, we're trying to tie everything to this boundary, so making sure that acreage is correct is essential. Okay, other questions here? Okay. So I know we've got about 29 minutes left. I'm going to jump into just a few of the reports first. Then I'm going to come back to billing integration because that's obviously what we're here for. But we kind of need to know what happens to these things so that way we can understand why it's such time saving in terms of how it gets us our numbers easier. So again, there's many more things over here that we have not even touched on yet. But what I want to focus on for a minute is this accounting reports. So you can see here we've got lots of different options. We can do some input and harvested crop inventory reports on the operations side. I've still got some pretty old grain in. I should get selling some of that. So those pieces are in there. We can look at the 1099s, but that would take us quite a bit of time today. So really we can focus on the fact that we can pull these Schedule Fs. Again, I'm pulling it for 2024, but I can quickly see how all that ties in. Moving up within here, we've got a brand new budgeted cash flow. There is a webinar tomorrow morning for that. If you're interested in really going in depth on what this budgeted cash flow tool can do, this is brand new to Traction. So it'll be full of that if you want to sign on to another webinar tomorrow morning and drink your coffee and learn about some budgeted cash flow. We also have an accrual reporting, an accrual balance sheet, a market value balance sheet. And then as we talk about bills, we've got this accounts payable report as well. So you see here, I've got some Keystone bills in that are still due. Those things would log here. And I could pull that at any as of date. In terms of cash reporting, everything that you would need for any type of bookkeeping that you're doing for the farm can be found here. One of those unique features, though, like I kind of indicated earlier, is that this entity can also be grouped. So if I want to see the trucking plus the custom harvesting and I want it all in one income statement, I can update this report and then those accounts will update here. And what I really like about these reports is I've got a ton of uncategorized revenue to get through. I can click on this and go find it. Or if this $30 looks kind of off, I can easily click in and go see, okay, this was a mobile deposit. That's interesting. Maybe I need to go in and edit that transaction. I can do all that from the report. And then, of course, that cash balance sheet as well is in here. I can pick my as of date. And then again, I can mark multiple entities, just look at one entity and save some time in going through all of that, looking at those transactions from here. And then the one that is really the one that pulls it all together for us. So we've talked about how when we purchase inputs, we're putting them into inventory. From the equipment, we're taking the equipment data, we're pulling it out of inventory, we're applying that cost over to the field. That's going to show up in this field profit center. So within this report, it's going to start to pull in here. I'm just going to give it some filters here at the top. So I don't want to look at Chad's fields. I want to look at mine. I'm going to go back to 2024 to pull some better data because I've sold some of that grain. And over here, I just want to pull data for corn. So I could filter these out. Now it's going to show me everything I planted to corn in 2024. I could select one field or just a certain farm. For today, I'm going to select all of them and hit apply. Then up here, I've got some other toggles that I can do. Because I have landowners, I only want to see my share, or I could just look at theirs or a combination. And then I can also toggle between actual and default equipment costs. I'm going to leave it on actual, hit update. And instantly you can see here for this 209 acres at the top, I've got my bushel per acre average, how many bushels I pulled off of here, how much of that was shared. And then in the columns, a per acre and per bushel number for that profitability on everything as applied, equipment that's run over all of these fields, and then anything else that I allocated within the transactions, it's going to come into these fields, giving me that net bottom line on a per acre, and per bushel on profitability for me to instantly pull this. And to me, this is definitely the defining feature of Traction. Because if I'm going in to look, we're in negotiations with the landowner, I need to know, they're claiming they're going to up the rent on that piece of property. I can go in and quickly pull these reports from the past couple of years and say, hey, if they charge us more in rent, we are not going to be profitable on this field, given all the circumstances. It also allows me to put in very different things per acre to really look at it more specifically. If we've got to pay for custom mowing on some waterways, if we've got to have an extra drying expense that needs allocated to acres, those types of things can be cataloged directly to the acres to give me that bottom line on these particular fields. And again, I can take it down to, a farm level. If I just want to look at one farm, what happened there? What did we end up at? And looking at a better view, it's a quick pull of data. Instantly, I've got it updated. I'm going back to look at that bottom line. and something that spreadsheet wise would take us, a lot of time and probably a lot of frustration. Also not probably taking into account all those little expenses that really do add up on some of our acres. So giving us real numbers we can work with. So I'll take a quick pause there. Do we have any questions? I haven't seen anything come into the chat, but anyone have questions on this particular report and where everything kind of comes together for traction?
Just to add to this, Hannah, if you hit the hide zones button at the very top, if you have more than one field listed on this report, this might be helpful to see that if you want to print this and give it to somebody.
Good. Yep.
I'm not seeing any other questions through here, Hannah, so
Okay.
I think you're doing great.
Okay. So let's talk about the star of the show. If we have everything hooked up, so I'm going to go back down to integrations and show where this lives. If you want to hook up your Keystone account and you say, hey, I just want it to start pulling in some of these bills that I'm getting so that I don't have to go and hand enter all of them, because you certainly can go in and hand enter, add a new bill, put in all of those line items. And at this point, if you're using other vendors, that's what that would look like, and it would track here to make payments on. But for Keystone customers and members, there is a much faster way. So you can see I've got another import queue up here in my finances. I've got 48 Keystone bills sitting in here ready to go through. So obviously they don't like to bill me super much in this demo account, but we can take a look at some of these. So I can see the entity of who it's going to. I've got that bill number, the date on it, and then the amount here. If I click in, this is what it would look like. So I would have brought in, everything that was line itemed on that bill from them. So all those items are going to come in. All I have to do in here is, as these red check marks come in, or red triangles, I'm simply going over here and saying, yep, this was a service. Account is going to go into a fuel and oil expense for propane. That was my fill. It has some fees and taxes on top of it that's going to get allocated to this transaction. And then up here, I could say, if this was for a certain piece of equipment or a crop zone, I could go ahead and select that as well. In this case, that's probably not what I want to do. So I can just hit apply. I'm going to get this check mark. The incredible thing about this bill import is that as I go through and I allocate and I tell it which account it's going to, I give it all the details and check mark these off, the system is going to learn. So anything else that's in my import queue that has this particular line item is automatically going to be matched. I don't have to do this every time. I don't have to be clicking around. It's very simply going to go in under that category. And the same thing would go for this tax. I can quickly allocate it to the account tax. It's showing me which items are getting taxed. I hit apply. I've got everything check marked on this particular bill. And so I can either do a save and close or a save and import and go ahead and bring this into my finances. So now it's out of the import queue and it will appear under bills under my Keystone bills. Okay, so I can already see this is overdue. Another one that I brought in earlier, if I look at this bill, this one had a lot of other chemical expense in it. So I had custom spraying done by the co-op. So I can see here I brought that in as a service. It goes into my custom spraying expense category. Now here's where, again, if we're tracking things really closely, I'm going to want to give it a zone. Now, the way that this comes in from Keystone, the place I need to look to know where it was sprayed is going to be down here in the memo. So this is going to be on my club farm, east, small, and west side. So when I come up into here, I can say, yep, I want to allocate this custom spraying cost to those zones. This is going to be for 2025. And let's come out of here. So now I should see. Nope, it didn't pull in my club farm. We'll just say it was these ones for now. So I can hit apply on that. I've got it allocated to fields and I can apply that across. Here this water came in. Again, it's a $0 cost, but it's still going to come in. It's still going to let me know that that happened. And then I also have chemical expense coming in from Explorer. I've got the unit cost already coming in from them. The total amount is there. those pieces have already been matched. If there are any discounts, so for instance, if I get an early pay discount here, I can say, oh, it's for $1,000. The nice part is I can say what that can be on down from below. So is it on the actual application on those acres, or is it from, you know, the chemical? Maybe I only can apply it to that application. I can put it there, hit apply, that's going to go out. I can also add any prepay accounts here. So as we know, this time of year, we're going to be thinking about prepays. I've got one in from 2024 that I can apply to this. So I can select that prepay account. My beginning balance was 60,000. I pulled 10 from that to pay this bill. So now the new balance there is 50,000. That 10 goes onto my bill, and it's going to decrease my total amount on this bill that I brought in. So saving a ton of time, checking accuracy of records as things come in. You've got the ability to, again, allocate it to fields. I didn't have to enter each of these line items. These came over on the bill itself, making my job super simple of just, hey, I'm going to go in and check mark these, and the system will continue to learn as I go through that each of these things are matched to the accounts that I have. So any questions on what this looks like and coming in through the automation and integration?
Yeah, feel free to unmute yourself, and if you have any questions about this or anything that she covered previously with machine integrations and John Deere, don't hold back.
I guess I would just like to add on, just to kind of reiterate some of the points that you made on this, Hannah, was that basically as you're using it and the more you use it, the less you're going to have to into the future, because then you have all of the item matching that's going to be allocating it and putting it back to the exact area that it needs to go within the system, so that the amount of time spent and the button clicks gets significantly reduced. And since we've rolled this out to a couple different companies, some of the feedback that we're getting is that there is some pretty significant time savings, especially as you're starting to go through, really busy seasons like a planting or, fall harvest or different items like that. Having all of the information coming in, and then also being able to kind of cross-reference it against any other kind of bills and invoices that you're getting to make sure that it's all there. And then the other part is that, we're bringing in all of the information into here. So it's not just, seed, fertilizer, chemicals or anything like that. It's everything that's going to be coming through in build. So even down to the family living expenses and those items that are coming in, we're able to handle those and continue to move forward and try to streamline that process.
Yep. Thanks, Chris. Any other notes on that, Chris, that you'd want to make sure we touch on, or else I'm going to kind of walk through what paying a bill looks like, and then we'll, I think, open it up to questions, because I know there probably are some that are still lingering.
That sounds great. Thanks.
Okay. So I've got some of these bills in. So again, I've got things in my import queue. This will continue to update. So these instantly will flow in as they keep coming in. Those higher ones will come to the top. I can also search by bill number. So again, in the import queue, they're not impacting anything financially yet. Once I import them, that's when they exist under my bills. So I can see here, ignore how much I owe on everything else. That's not fun. But under Keystone, as a vendor, if I open this up, again, I can see some things are current. I've got some overdue amounts, and then right now I don't have anything on amount paid. If I said, hey, I'm ready to pay this, I'm going to go ahead and make a payment in the system. I can select one or even all of these. And then up here, I would just hit the button, pay bills. So as you can see, I'm already into a transaction now. It's got Keystone as the contact. It's got the date, and then it's got each of those bills listed out within here. So it's got the total amount. Here, I would just tell it which entity and which account is paying for this. So I'm going to run it through the checking. I can have the option to print a check or add it to a batch of checks that I want to print, but today I'm just going to keep it as do not print. And in this case, I'm going to go ahead and pay it in full. So here I would say Keystone bill pay, in my memo just to make sure I've got it in there. And if I want to drag and drop in those PDF files or any of the documents that were sent to me directly from Keystone, I can go ahead and throw those directly onto this payment as well, or into the bills themselves. So that way those will be there as well for me to have reference to, keeping that kind of digital footprint all together. Once I hit save and close, that transaction has been added. You'll see all of these bills are marked paid in full. I have $0 outstanding for Keystone, and that transaction went into the account register right here on this top one. So there's that bill pay. I can always go back in and take a look at that again if needed. And I think we might have had a question pop into the chat.
We did, yeah. So the
Okay.
question, if I buy products in bulk, can I split those per farm at a different rate, or will it just divide them equally for the farms selected?
Interesting. Okay, so buying it in bulk. So typically, if you're buying it in bulk, yes, you can go ahead and bring that all in with the bill. Once you bring those items in and then you're using it on the field records, that's when it will go ahead and split them out there. Typically, we're not allocating it until it comes in. Well, I guess in this case, are you buying specific chemicals in bulk, or you're just buying a chemical expense in bulk?
We actually buy most all of our chemical in bulk, and
Okay.
then we're spraying them. But then like some different situations where we like we spray all of our 28
Hmm.
corn on corn, we're going at a higher rate. So will that come through? Can I apply that per farm? Not necessarily on the Keystone side, but on the per farm basis, can I apply that at a different rate for different farms?
Are they custom applying, Mark, or are you applying?
No, I'm applying.
You're applying. Okay. So in that case, either if it's coming through on a machine integration in the import queue, those rates will come in from that perspective, and it'll pull it out of your inventory and apply that cost over as it's applied. Or if it's something where it's not coming in from a machine integration, I guess we didn't talk about this, but I can go ahead and make a custom application record or any field activity record that I need to. So if we sprayed, these 4 corn or 3 cornfields, and this might have been a different rate at that time, here's where I would go ahead and add that particular product. I would tell it which rate it's going to apply if these all were at the same rate, and then I could add a different one for other applications at different rates, and it would pull that out and then apply that cost over.
Okay,
Does
so
that answer it, or?
yeah, so
go
on Keystone's just going to put it into a bulk inventory, and
Mhm.
then once I apply in an as applied map, then it will actually do it on a field by field basis.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Now, the only difference with it would be is if, for example, and I know a couple folks that we've already worked with that are current customers have had this particular instance. So that would be if we're purchasing product, right? So in Mark's case, purchasing a bunch of product, he's applying it. So we're going to wait until he actually applies that product to go ahead and allocate it across. That makes the most sense because then we're getting that applied rate. It's going to split out that profitability as is. Now, for us, we have some custom application pieces, especially with fertilizer. So as that would come in, I'm just going to create a new bill here under Keystone to demonstrate this. So here's a scenario that happens pretty frequently. So Keystone, that bill would, let's pretend this bill actually came in. Inputs, we'll just do fertilizer. I'm just going to pick potash here. And let's say in 2025, they came and spread this for me. Okay. So here's how normally it would come across. We'd have potash in here, but if I keep it as an input, okay, what's going to happen is that this input's going to go into my inventory. If I'm not spreading it, if I'm not putting in a field record for spreading this potash, then it's not going to pull out of my inventory, and it assumes I have possession of the potash. I just haven't used it yet, and it's not going to put that cost over to the field. So if this is a custom application, what I'm actually going to do is put in, it is an input, or actually I'll do it as a services other, and I'm still going to get it to the fertilizer and lime expense account. So financially, it's still going into that account. Okay. Still going to track the same. However, this potash is not going to go into my inventory. I am not taking possession of it. Never at any time is it sitting in the shed. They literally come out and they're just going to spread it. Let's say that it's costing me $650 for this particular field. Here's where I would go in and say, here's where they went and spread, right? So I'll just select a couple fields here. They went and spread on 4 fields. It cost me $650. So I'm going to do it as a services other and go ahead and allocate it because of that, because I didn't take it into possession. I just paid for the custom. And then here I would also probably, if this came in, I would have a custom hire expense in here, a custom application expense, whatever that was, to actually pay them to do it. And again, I could go in, whoops, not equipment, zones. And I could pick, these 4 fields again, apply. That cost is going to go across those acres.
Would this typically come through like on fertilizer, for instance, when they send us a bill, they have it itemized out on the Keystone for this field got so many acres. The potash isn't necessarily in a bulk number. It's on a per field. Will it flow through on the invoice then?
Yeah, so actually it's really been nice to see some of these come through. So if they went and spread this on these 4 fields, what they'll do is they'll put typically the number of acres and the fields that this particular bill applies to directly in the memo of the bill.
Okay. Yep.
Yep, and each of those should be separate. So each application from what we've seen will come in separately. And so it's not, usually it's not, it might be 6 or 7 fields that they went out and sprayed in one day, but those pieces and this amount that'll come in terms of the quantity as it comes in a line item, and I would just flip it instead of an input, I would flip it to services and just be tracking that because that's what I'm paying for without taking it into inventory. But yeah, it'll get split out usually like by an application by that amount.
Yeah. Well, you greatly answered my question because I was trying to think on the side of when they're applying versus when I'm applying, how I'm going to get them into each category, but that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. And we are looking at, for folks that would want to go ahead and create the field record directly from here, because you could put it in your inventory and then log a field record to take it back out, but it looks a little bit wonky because you didn't actually take the product and you didn't actually do the application, but also you may want to show that in your field record. So it is an option. You can do it both ways. It just depends on how you want it to appear in terms of on the field record side, but either way, those expenses are going to get brought over into the profitability.
Okay. Well, that helps because actually currently we're getting ready to haul lime, but then Keystone applies it. So
Gotcha.
I have the bill for the lime, but they have the bill for the application. So that's a perfect example.
Yep.
Thank you.
And then, yeah, absolutely. And it has been helpful too. Like we have some folks that there's a couple right now where I'm encouraging them, like as they get those emails in directly from Keystone, hey, go copy that PDF and drag and drop it over into the import queue or into the bill. So that way we can always have it there as a reference. So it's going to live there. We can always go back and take a look at that later to ensure that we know exactly what happened from all sides. Yeah, Michael.
What if I'm custom applying a product for somebody? Can I create an invoice and send out?
Yeah, great question. Let me bounce out of here. Yep. So within the system, you can certainly create custom invoices as well. So in here, I can create it for any of my entities. So if I have custom harvesting, but if you had a custom application entity, or you could just have it from the farm. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good. So I could go ahead and put in, maybe I'm hitting Jeff Bridges here. I can put in my logo too for the farm or for my business. Hit next. Oops. And then again here, so it could be a landowner invoice or whatever I want to label it. I can drag and drop in a copy of any other, files or anything that I need here. Make my due dates, invoice numbers, everything here. Click next. And then here's where I can go ahead and pull in any inputs and equipment. So again, whatever I'll just keep using this insecticide. It's going to log it to the account. spray 200 gallons. It's pulling in the amount. I can adjust any of this. So I can pull that in. Maybe they get charged for using the sprayer. I can pull that here. It's going to go to custom higher income for me, 250 acres. All those pieces can pull in. And then maybe they also, I don't know, maybe there's an interest charge that I want to log as well. I can do that. Whatever I need to do here, I can pull that in. And then, and it's going to yell at me a little bit here. Let's take that one out because that one was kind of wonky. Hit next. And then I've got an invoice that I can download and print for them. I can mail it to them. It's not going to directly send out of the system. I'm going to have to tell it. The other one, though, that's really cool on this is if I have an individual in as a landowner for me. So Denison Farms is a landowner, and I've got tons of invoices out for them. But if I go in to edit this invoice, because I have a land agreement for this particular customer, I actually, when I go to generate an invoice, will get this bill landowner button. And if I click on this and go into previously billed field records for 2025, here is the billable input that I put on this field for them, the date I put it on, and it will apply it directly into this invoice at the amount that they are responsible for based on the percentage I have in the landowner agreement. And then I can add any other charges to this invoice as needed. Once they've started to make payments, I can't change it, but I can edit anything in here now because he hasn't. But I can actually pull directly from the field records. Like if he's responsible for 30% of inputs, it will pull the 30% in for me. And then I can always adjust it, but at least I would have those base numbers without having to go back and try to read it off equipment or guess how much got applied. So lots of custom invoicing options within the system as well. Does that answer for you, Michael?
Yes, thank you.
Good question. So we are a minute from the time that we scheduled. I am happy to answer any other questions, or otherwise I will turn it over to Brian to kind of wrap us up.